Tales of the Greek Heroes by Roger Lancelyn Green, read by Alex Jennings, Rula Lenska, and David Rintoul. The Coming of the Immortals. With all the breathtaking beauty of Greece round about them, it is hardly surprising that the ancient Greeks felt that the mountains and the valleys, the woods and streams, the very sea itself, were people with immortals. There were wood nymphs among the trees and water nymphs in the rivers. There were sea nymphs too, and strange sea beings who might be cruel and fierce even as the sea was fierce and cruel when the storms arose. And the sea must have a king, more powerful even than the nymphs, the immortal called Poseidon, who might come up through the waters in his chariot, drawn by white horses, waving his trident, the three-pronged spear which was his sceptre or sign of power. On land also there were immortal powers, Apollo shining like the sun, who was also the lord of music and poetry, ARTEMIS the Huntress, who guarded all wild things, fierce Ares the warlord, whose terrible shout might ring across the field of battle when the spears were flying and the swords of bronze or iron clanged on the shields and helmets, Athena, immortal lady of wisdom, the kind mother goddess Demeter, who caused the corn to grow and the young lambs to be born, with her lovely daughter Persephone, who had to spend half the year in the kingdom of the dead when dark winter was spread over the earth. Then there was Aphrodite, immortal lady of beauty and love, with Eros her son, who shot the invisible arrows that made a young man or girl fall in love. There was Hephaestus, more skilled than any mortal man in working with bronze and gold and iron, whose forge was beneath the island of Lemnos, with a volcano as his furnace chimney. There was Hermes of the winged wheels, swift messenger, more cunning than any human being. There was Dionysus, who gave such power to the grapes that they could be brewed into wine to be a joy and a comfort to mankind. And there was the quiet Hestia, lady of the home and guardian of the hearth, for the hearth was the heart of the home in the days when fire was difficult to make. All these and more were the immortals, and their powers were great, but they too must surely obey laws and have a ruler set over them, and this was Zeus, the king of heaven and of earth, who wielded the thunderbolt, and was father of mortals and of immortals, and his queen was Hera, lady of marriage and guardian of children. Zeus had power over all immortals, though he seldom exercised it over his brothers Poseidon, lord of the sea, and Hades, lord of the dead, whose kingdom of shadows was thought to be beneath the earth. The Greeks called these immortals the gods, and worshipped them, making sacrifices to them at their particular shrines, Zeus at Olympia, Apollo at Delphi, Athena at Athens, and so on. When they began to tell stories about them, they had very little idea of what gods should be, and quite naturally pictured them as very like themselves, but much more powerful, more beautiful, and more free. Nor did it seem wrong to them to imagine that gods and goddesses could be cruel, or mean, deceitful, selfish, jealous, or even wicked, according to our ideas, and as they themselves would have thought if ordinary men and women had done as the gods did. But as time went on, and the Greeks thought and learnt more and more, some at least of them began to wonder about many of the stories. They began to realize that there was only one real God, and that he was good, better than any man could be. Surely, however, this God must be Zeus. Therefore Zeus himself must have become better and better, and have learnt by suffering until he understood what mercy really meant. Then the storytellers realized that this fitted in rather well with the oldest of the stories about the gods. For in the very early days, before Zeus came, there were other gods, terrible creatures who were hardly people at all, who were as cruel and as dreadful as a tempest or an earthquake, as a tidal wave or an erupting volcano. These, in the earliest stories of all, those made by savage ancestors ages before, were the children of the sky and the earth. They were giants and titans.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?